Welcome, everybody. My name is Julius Jooste, and I'll be hosting the Going Global event with you, or for you. Joining me is Evan and Willie from Artistpreneur, and you'll also notice that we have Ashley from Creative Social, Creative Social in the comments, and she'll also be jumping in from time to time. Just some housekeeping before we get started. We want to try and adhere to the proposed schedule. So we're going to be starting shortly. And we want to do questions at the end. So if you have any questions, maybe pop them in the chat as they come to mind. And then once we're done with the presentation, we can go to them. We can go through them pretty quickly. Right. So with that out of the way, I think let's quickly start with introductions. We'll do introductions, and then I'm just going to explain to you what the running order is going to be like. So we'll do introductions, then Evan and Willie will be telling us about the Artistpreneur and the success that they've had online working with creatives. From there, I will be joining in or sharing my story about registering my business in the US, or better known as an LLC, why I did that, how I did that, and how you could use that to work towards success and leverage all these benefits within your business. After that, we have a Q&A, and then we want to try and finish on the clock at 7 because we do have prior commitments. If for some reason we get disconnected, we will connect as soon as possible. But yes, the call is being recorded, and we will be sharing it on all our relevant platforms after the fact. So with that being said, Evan, the floor is yours.
Sure. Thanks, man. First of all, thanks for having us. Really appreciate it. It's my second time here in Cape Town. It's beautiful. But my name is Evan Price. I'm the owner and founder of Artistpreneur. We strictly help creatives, usually in the music space. We've definitely helped videographers and photographers and painters before. We were based out of Chicago. That's where Willie and I met. And we shifted into the online space around 2020 when a lot of people kind of shifted into that for obvious reasons, right? So we were able to kind of go outside of just people in Chicago. So for a while, we were just kind of focused on people in our area, like in our in the geolocation. And I think that 2020, thing that happened that we're all aware of, burst that open to force us into going online, going global, if you will, just full circle. So yeah, that's kind of my introduction. I started the company out of my dorm room, and I just had a passion of helping creatives kind of build business around what they love to do. And got my guy Willie Chill over here.
Yeah, I mean, my journey's somewhat similar. I would suspect. Met this guy in Chicago, spent about a decade there, and I was carving my own path. And I was managing artists at the time. I was working in the music space, and then I worked with Live Nation, started building some programs there that really had a lot of success. We were a small team. We were rolling them out to like bigger venues, making sure that we could build this structure for the whole company, eventually worldwide. And then it all happened as well. And him and I had been circling each other for quite some time. And I had learned a lot about sales and marketing during that time, working with artists, running my own events, throwing networking events, like shows for the artists, like tons of different things. Brought that with Live Nation, presented it, and we started working together during that time and built it into what it is today, where we're able to help guide creatives on finding leads and finding people for themselves, not only just where they live, but outside of the geolocation. So it becomes this like big global audience. As long as you know specifically who you're talking to, it becomes this global audience that you can then reach, and it allows for a lot more freedom. I started traveling in about 2.5, 3 years ago, fully nomadic. Which I'm sure we'll dive into later, but it's been a beautiful journey. Cape Town, like he said, is our second time back. It's one of my favorite places on the planet.
Beautiful. So before I do my introductions, just a quick question for both of you. What kind of creatives are you, or were you before you got started? Evan, if I'm not mistaken, you were a drummer and you were recording music as well.
Yeah. I started out as a drummer, about like 14, 15 years old. just kind of wanted to play with my friends. And then I just morphed into being their manager because nobody else would want to do it. They wanted the MySpace page made. That kind of dates me a little bit. So I learned how to make that, and that's how we got our first group of fans. And I just found that the management side of things is what I was more drawn to than the playing and being in a van with 6 dudes, stuff like that. So yeah, so I kind of morphed into the management, the overseeing the business side of stuff.
The structure component.
Yeah, exactly.
And you, Willie?
Yeah, for me, my earliest memory of music really is being pulled into my vice principal's office in like middle school and like 5th grade, being taught what copyright was, because I was already selling mixtape CDs and saying I was marketing it as I'm taking the risk for you, and you won't get the viruses on your computer and I will for you. I sold them at a premium even more if you wanted to choose the order in them. So I think I knew where my specialty was like early on. I had dreams of being, owning like a record label and things. And I came into the industry really in Chicago at a time when those were really going extinct. And I still think they have their benefits, but for most people, not really, which pushed me into the more independent realm, which ended up like helping my marketing and sales flourish, I think, in the areas that I wanted, which is just working with creatives all the time.
It's lovely when creatives get to tap into their tools early on, because it opens up the pathway to mastery. And I think both of you have definitely gotten to that point where you can be considered masters in your respective fields. With that, let me quickly just do a quick rundown about me. My name is Julius Jooste. I'm a fine artist and content creator. I spent the last 15 years working on a variety of high-profile assignments. I just want to admit in all here. Assignments included the FIFA Confederations Cup in 2009, when I toured with the Brazilian media. Next year, I toured with ZDF, so it's a German media. Brazil won the gold medal for their tournament. Germany won the bronze medal. And that pretty much set the tone for the remainder of my career. Meaning that I had never really been exposed to the local scene, mostly the international component. After the World Cup, work dried up a little bit. I went into, I started an assignment with my dad, which had a construction company at that stage, where I did a graphic information system, or like a Google Earth-like assignment, where we were taking photos of the entire low voltage and medium voltage network for the municipality. So essentially what that means is I had teams working below me. They had equipment, cameras, GPS devices, and they were taking photos of everything. And our partners were compiling that into like a 3D view. During that assignment, we did about 40 million photos in total. I employed probably 100 people throughout the 24-month assignment. And at the end of it, I had completely burned out and ended up in a hospital thinking that I had a terminal disease. And when that happened, it completely changed my way of living. So fast forward 6 months later, I'm rehabilitated. I've made some big changes in my life. And then I moved down to Cape Town. I was here for a couple of weeks, started studying DJing through Soul Candy, which is a big thing here, or used to be like a cool thing. And before long, I went to Ibiza for a 2-week holiday, which turned into a 3-month assignment and matured into like a 7-year career, where I covered more than 1,200 high-profile events with some of the biggest names in the music industry. So that's the pre-COVID story. When COVID hit, I transitioned into online because I had so many amazing photos, and I'm of the belief that there are people who want to buy that and add it to their collections. But as I was doing that from Cape Town, I realized that those collectors are not here. So it's a geographical bottleneck. Hence the online, hence me finding coaches in the US that helped me build my fine art business. And in the last 3 years, my work has been featured in art spaces and conferences in Dubai, Las Vegas, here in Cape Town, I think New York, London, and so forth. So I just wanted to host this event for all the local guys to explain, I understand your pain, but I also want to share that there are solutions, and Willie and Evan will be helping us figure that out. So that's it for me. We can go to the next slide, which is Evan about their mission.
Yeah, for sure. So our mission is pretty simple. We want to give creatives, you can call them musicians, videographers, designers, just any creative person, the tools to start their own business. We believe that you can run your own business. You can specifically do it remotely. You just need the right systems in place, the right offer in place in order to do so. So instead of relying on like trying to go get a job, you can kind of build your own offer, and you don't need a lot nowadays. You just need a simple computer. Sometimes you just need a phone, right? Mm-hmm. So to really empower them and to give them the tools to be able to build their own thing and find their own clients, spending as little money as possible. It's absolutely possible. Our main focus for Artistpreneur is music experts, coaches, educators, helping them craft an offer around what they're best at, and finding their audience online, specifically on social media is a great place to start. So that in a nutshell is kind of what our mission is.
So would you mind expanding a bit on your framework?
Yeah, we can go on to the framework. That's cool. Go to the next one, actually. Boom. So this is the 3-part system we kind of focus our main clients on. One is the DLB model, which at its root is just do less better. And I know you're sitting here, and I know you're creative, so I know you better than you think. You're doing a lot. You're focusing on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, and you've got all these different offers in place, and you're trying a bunch of different things and different strategies, and you're starting to feel that burnout and that overwhelm. We like to pause our clients and say, cool, let's focus on a single strategy, maybe even a single platform with a single offer, and like make that work. And then you can start to add other things, because I see overwhelm and doing too many things kill more businesses than anything else. So we really, that's the key element first. It's like, let's do less better. Instead of doing a bunch of things, okay, put your energy into a single pathway. And that's the pathway that we kind of help our clients with. Second one is going to be figure out what your offer is. We like to focus on a high ticket offer. What that typically means is something that isn't just like, $10 or, $20 or whatever. I'm going off of USD, of course, but, finding a specific like high ticket thing that you do really well, and like double down on that. Instead of giving your clients and your customers all these different options, focus on one thing and say, hey, I know your problem. This is it. This is the outcome that you want to get. My one service is the solution for that. So focus on that instead of a bunch of offers, if that makes sense.
The analogy of being a general doctor versus a specialist.
Yeah.
Exactly. At the end of the day, the specialist knows the intimacies of what exactly lights you guys on fire, creating from that and understanding what you'd love to do and how you got to where you're at. Whether you feel like you're at the middle of your journey, you're not the expert you want to be, you're already above somebody else in their journey. You've already read some of the chapters of the book. Leaning into that and being that specialist will help you charge more, because then you can help somebody else that looks identical to you go through that same journey substantially faster and with a lot more efficiency. Thus raises your value and your trust, because you're speaking the same language as them too. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. No, that's great. Yeah, it's really just focusing on your superpower, right? What's the thing that you're like, this lights me on fire? I usually like to ask clients, like, what is something you do for free? Not that I want you to do it for free, but what would you do for free because you just love it so much? That's a good place to start. It doesn't always have to be your passion, but it's a good place to kind of focus on. So that's what I mean by high ticket offer, like a singular focus.
I've seen that in one of your testimonials, there's a client that says, I've been doing one-on-one coaching for $70 an hour, But with your guidance, I've now been able to develop, I think it's a 4-week course, and he only needed to source 5 clients. Do you mind maybe elaborating on that offering? What would something like that look like for somebody in the visual arts space, so photographers, videographers?
Yeah, so in the visual arts space, so our main focus is coaches, right? Educators. They've been able to do a certain thing, so they've created a program to help others do the same thing. Not everybody here that's in this room probably wants to be a coach or an educator. I think a lot of you could teach a thing that you're really good at, so that's what that would look like. But with more specifically, with what you're talking about with like the visual people here, is a singular offer around the actual done for you service, right? You're editing a video, or you're doing a photo shoot or something. Like, do a package for that instead of like buy the hour or buy the photo or buy the just the hour, I suppose, is usually what people go towards.
It could also look a lot like, let's say that you're really great at taking photos of people, right? I think I saw that in the chat. You probably do different types of events. Maybe you do weddings, maybe you do birthdays, maybe you do proposals, maybe you just do, senior photos, who knows, right? But you take good photos, and you additionally know how to get gigs, right? So you probably know how to make connections, where to post, how to talk to people, how to source those things, what equipment you need, how to show up, how to prepare, how to actually edit afterwards and deliver, the whole process. People that want to get into that space, that want to do private gigs, that might not have the connections that you may have developed over time, don't even know where to start. So what the program could look like is maybe over the course of 12 weeks, a photographer in this room that's really great at taking photos of people in different types of events, different situations, could take a early photographer, somebody who maybe has just the basic equipment, some photos, maybe a camera, a basic camera, and maybe some software if they need it on their computer. They can take somebody who's just beginning out, that is just starting, all the way to maybe possibly booking their first gig. Who knows? Maybe that could happen in 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks. You'd have to really understand what this person that takes the photos in the first place is good at. But that's a value. You're changing somebody's life if you're able to show them the ropes, right? Walk them down that path. Say, okay, great. This is what you're going to need to prepare. This is how you're going to reach out to people. This is where you should start. This is what your profile should look like. We're going to do 1, 2, and 3 together. It's like a personal trainer at a gym, right? It makes you a lot more efficient and a lot more effective, a lot more quickly. Hopefully that resonates with people here.
Yeah, that helps a lot. In terms of your general strategy, do you prefer to do one-on-one, or maybe groups of 5, groups of 10? Where do you think is a good place to start that's not too overwhelming?
You mean in terms of like the clients that you take on, like for us?
Yeah, so let's say I wanted to start a photography course where I take you from intermediate to middle, or to advanced, and it's a 12-week process. Would you suggest that I'd start with just one client, or should I start with 4 at the beginning? Where should I cap? Like, should it 10 or 20?
Yeah, if you've never done that before, I always recommend doing one-on-one first, because you're going to learn a lot. Your main concern is getting them incredible results. It's just easier to do that one-on-one. Over time, you can go into a hybrid thing where it's like also group, and then you're getting closer to the reality of people like the self-led courses that you can sell. But you don't start there because you don't actually know if it will work the way that you say it will until you take somebody hand in hand, take them through the process, and make sure that they get the results. So first one-on-one, then group, then you can kind of toy with some self-led stuff.
Okay, so before I go on to the next slide, I just want to summarize what I've heard. And that is that all of us in here in this call already have a developed skill set which is worth something to somebody else. And that's something that we are underutilizing and should learn to utilize or generate revenue from.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
All right. So have you guys spoken about the lead generation system yet?
Yeah, I'll briefly touch on it, and then I'm going to switch it over to Willie, and he kind of go into much more detail, because that's the next slide. But then it's just about, how do you find these people, right? Setting up a lead generation system, what most people are used to. I feel like especially in the visual The visual realm is like word of mouth referrals, right? You're just kind of sitting on your hands waiting for people to be like, they're a good fit for that. Like, yeah, let me introduce you. Like, that's great and all, but it's not consistent. It's not reliable. You don't know for sure you're going to get 5 new clients every month because of that. If you do, cool, but most of the time it's a no. So setting up some kind of generation system to bring people to you and a pathway to actually go out and look, yes, the cold emails, the cold DMs, like that is a part of it. But when you know what to do and exactly what to say and how to approach it, it makes it a little easier. So Willie's going to talk about, if you can go to the next slide, a couple of our main strategies to do this.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to know in the chat here how every one of you guys finds your work, you know, with your creative skill. How do you typically find your leads? I bet I can guess how. It's probably through word of mouth or referrals, or maybe you're just aimlessly posting online. Maybe you're using Facebook groups. But a lot of you probably don't use, or maybe you're even like creating content, like waiting for people to show up. But my opinion of this, or my analogy of kind of approaching things like this is, imagine the world, or let alone the internet, as a big old ocean. Without what Evan has just talked about, like getting really clear on the things that you're going to help change somebody's life with, unless you actually know how you're a specialist, which many of you are, I'm sure, in this room, like we just said. Not understanding that, you're like fishing in a big old ocean without bait, without a map, without a clear vision of what fish you're trying to catch. You're out there trying to fish, and yes, you may catch a fish or two, but as you go to the internet and try to create this, you know, real freedom that we're here to all talk about, and being able to bridge beyond just Cape Town and South Africa, you really need to understand, like, okay, if I'm going to go out there, I have to prepare the baits. I have to know what my people really care about. What are the problems? If it's, you know, Joe down the road, like if he's your ideal client, like what does he care about? What's his life like? Like, why does he want to do this? Like, why is it important? Does he have a family? Like, knowing these things will help you understand and get in the head. And what's the solution that they really want? If you know those things, you know your bait, right? You already know your fish. That's Joe. Now we need to figure out where to park our boat. And that's about really identifying the characteristics that you think these people are using on the internet, right? So for me, for instance, I've talked about this with my clients a lot. When I'm building ads, I might look to find people who are nomadic. So we might target things like Airbnb. Then we might do educated. We might narrow that by people who are educated. So that way we get people who are similar to us, right? But Evan and I have been lucky enough to attend university, and we went and studied music business, but we also travel, right? I want to work with people just like us, just as you probably want to work with people just like yourselves. Paid strategies can work just like this. But outside of just laning into these types of things, which cost money, there are plenty of people out there where you don't have to pay for, Plenty of people that you can directly outreach, send a message to, and start a conversation with. This is a big factor because you may not have the capital to run ads. Trust, it doesn't have to cost much if you're efficient. 80 Rand a day, if you can, is where you could really start. But if you're able to reach out organically, you can follow pages that are full of photographers, of editors. They're of art galleries where they have photos of places where they house events, public event spaces. Different types of, like I think about for birthdays, like different balloon shops or different party stores. And send DMs. Just send an Instagram message. Hey, you know, whatever your name is. I see that you were shopping over here, or you're celebrating a birthday or something came up. Like, just start a general message to this person like you care, and see if you can start a conversation. Now, granted, not all of them are going to start. You're probably going to have a small amount that will start, but some of them will. And those will lead to calls, which will lead to sales. And this doesn't cost any money, it just costs time. The more you can compound this, the more you can then spend in ads, which is what we balance. Organic, which is you going to people, and paid strategies, which is people coming to you, right? And so balancing these two ends allows for more consistent business, allows for, as we were saying in the beginning, to start to really get moving without having to invest large sums of money or knowing exactly what to do in ads. But then over time, learning how to converse with people, getting the muscle memory, and then using that when you start to flood in your inbox with leads. We primarily hang out on Instagram. That's where us and our clients are at. There's 500 million active users on Instagram alone. There's 1 billion on Facebook. You often find that creatives try to be everywhere. You need to be on YouTube, posted shorts and TikToks and Instagram reels and all these different things, but it's absolutely not necessary. There's enough people wherever you're at. We choose Instagram because the platforms have different like action points. Instagram is an action platform. You'll find yourself stepping off the platform, clicking links, interacting with things versus probably how you interact with them on Facebook or somewhere else. So yeah, I see word of mouth and referrals in the chat there. Referrals and promoting the work. Promoting the work, maybe like social posting. Again, like I want it through the ways that I'm telling you, especially the organic, you can take a hold. You are no longer waiting for opportunities to come to you. You could send 20 messages a day. That's 140 messages a week. I'm sure that will add up, and it does.
So I just quickly want to visit something that we discussed during the pre-call, and you spoke about the importance of setting an end goal or having a goal in mind. So knowing this is what I want to achieve in this amount of time. Do you mind just elaborating on that a little bit?
Yeah, that's a great point. So I think a good measurement, a lot of people try to start when they're thinking about their journey, they try to start at the beginning, right, with their goals. Just thinking like, okay, like how many people do I need to message, which is good, which is what I've just talked about. But in your frame and the way we try to encourage our clients to think, and I think myself and the business does, is what's our end goal, right? How many rand do we need to make every month in order to be comfortable? How much do we need to make every year to live the life that we want, right? To be able to travel, to live somewhere else, or to go out to eat, or have whatever you'd like. Not to the extent of being super, super wealthy, but to be comfortable enough. And then that can dictate, okay, if I price my offer at this, I need to sell this many every month, which means I need to talk to this many people, right? If you work all the way back, it'll give you the number of people that you should talk to every day. If you talk to this many people and convert them 20, 30% of those conversations into calls, you close 10% or 20% of those calls turns into this percentage of sales, which leads to this amount of clients, which leads to this amount of money. That way, math, yeah, it's all just, but starting with the end makes it easier to see the workload. And people follow habits more often when they know why they're doing it. Yeah. Right. And so employing the tactic of just setting your goal and then holding yourself accountable to it will let that work, which is sometimes frustrating and mundane of just sending messages to a bunch of people every day, become a little bit more enjoyable.
Just on that note, I can share from experience that the unlock for me came when I joined a community. So instead of me taking things on by myself and I'm shooting in the dark, now I have a community of peers that I can reach out to if I'm stuck or who's a bit further along the path than I am, and they can give me some advice. And I can also be that for somebody else who's just starting out. And I think that's something that we've achieved with the Creative Social Group. I think it's in its seed phase, but there's definitely a resource and a community where creatives can be more supportive of one another. So
there's definitely studies that show that you are more productive and you get more done and you're more successful when you're around other people that are after the same goal or a similar goal.
Yeah. 100%.
So there's definitely some actual data to back that. So that's great.
Yeah. And then just before I go on to your confessions of a digital nomad, I just want to add a little bit of tidbit just for interest's sake. But the part of the brain that's responsible for math is the part of the brain that's also responsible for music. So if you are a fan of music, if you're a musician, that part of the brain is probably developed or overdeveloped, and that translates into you being better at math and doing budgets. So win for music.
I'm pretty medium at math and pretty medium at music, so I guess that makes sense.
All right. So I'd like to hear some of your crazy experiences being fully nomadic. Willie, I know that you moved down, well, you left the US at early 2022 when you started, and it's been 2.5 years. How many countries has it been? And like, just share.
Yeah, for sure. So I started a little over 2.5 years ago. I left in 2022. Cape Town was my first location. When everything started to happen in 2020, and so I never would have guessed that this is where I would have ended up. Not the location, just traveling. But I took a leap and jumped out. This was the first spot. I knew nobody that was doing this at the time. I knew nobody that was traveling like I wanted to, nobody that was just hopping around, nobody that really worked online. So it was a pretty massive risk. I didn't have a bunch saved up, but I had enough to cover a handful of months that were behind me. Just as a safety net. In worst case scenario, I could probably figure my way out to go back home if I needed to go home early. But I took the risk, right? This was the first spot, fell in love immediately. Haven't looked back since. So much that I've gotten him out, and I've brought a ton of friends, and we brought clients out. I will cross the 40 country mark pretty soon. In total traveled, I've done all 7 continents. One of my favorite things was traveling to Antarctica a few years ago, about a year and a half ago. One of the most beautiful places that I've ever been. The crazy story about this is we were on an expedition ship, and on those boats you're allowed to get off. They're a small crew of like 100 passengers, and we're supposed to get off the boat at certain locations, not like docks. We get on little Zodiac boats, inflatable boats that we take to land. They're military boats, and we couldn't go to the spot we were supposed to go even after plan A, B, C, D failed. So we ended up hitting our first steps on Antarctica in a place that probably had never been touched by humans before, which was incredible. But that's one of the better stories. I could tell you a lot more crazy stories, which are probably not reserved for the recorded version of this. But the point of it all is at first I was terrified, right? Like as you take your first steps into anything, I had no idea what was on the other side of that. And as you all grow your businesses, I'm sure there's some level of excitement and fear that goes alongside with that. But being this far away from the start, I don't forget what that felt like, but it was way more easy now. I feel like I'm in the same routine that I was when I lived in Chicago. I get to see the places that I want to go. And in relativity to, I think one thing that's worth like bringing up, a lot of the South Africans in here, the Cape Townians are probably thinking, oh, well, this American telling me he can travel around the world. Like the thing I meant sure to do a little bit of research about is the access in countries that a South African has, even without going and having a U.S. passport or just traveling to the U.S. I know Julius is going to talk about going to the U.S. a little bit too, I'm sure, but there are so many beautiful places in this world that I would have never even thought of when I lived in Chicago, and you all have access to them, and they don't have to cost as much as you may think. And traveling opens that up. If you're able to move and build a business online where you can find clients anywhere and charge what you all are worth, you can go wherever the heck you want. It's a beautiful world out there full of, I think there's like 190 countries. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then he joined me, I think about a year and a quarter ago. He waited a year for me to come, and then he joined me. Where did we go first? Colombia first.
Colombia. Yeah, I had to make sure that he'd survive it. I gotta make sure he survives first. But yeah, I quit my pretty steady job in the States and just took the leap as well. We went to Colombia first. And I think we did 14 countries in that year on like 4 continents. We moved around a lot. And I think it was cool to see like that. Yeah, you can really do this remotely. If you have an offer that doesn't require you to be there in person, then it's definitely possible. It's a little bit scary and unnerving. Like, is the Wi-Fi going to work, or are things going to go right here? Things like that. But overall, it's been really fun. It's been really cool to be able to see different cultures and see different towns and everything like that. Well, I don't have any crazy stories really to share at this moment.
Do you have a single highlight that comes to mind?
What's that? My main thing is, what I've noticed is I try to talk to as many locals as possible and just have as brutally honest of conversations as I can, because that's what I'm here to do. I'm not trying to stay in a bubble. And what I've found from all places is we're all very similar. We're all very disgruntled with our governments. We're all very opinionated on things. We all have our own struggles that's very similar. So it's just kind of cool to to see that unity, in real life instead of just being, in your bubble. So that's been really cool for me to see that and to be able to talk to really, really dope people, creatives and, regular worker bees alike. We're all kind of just after the same thing. So that's kind of refreshing for me, but yeah, no crazy story other than seeing the pyramids like 4 times, which is incredible.
We climb Kilimanjaro soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to know if everybody
awesome.
in the chat in the room here, like, if you could go anywhere, where would you go? I would love to know where people would go.
Yeah, please put that in the chat, and then we'll circle back to it. I quickly just want to go on to my part of the presentation, and it's not going to be as long as everybody thinks. I want to give everybody time to ask their questions so we can converse. We've got about 20 minutes left. But I'm going to give you the bullet points, and at the end of my presentation, there's a QR code with a link to an article that I wrote, and this will give you access to all the resources that I've used for my LLC, including where to do my tax returns, where to register the LLC, the services I use for my web hosting, my website software, coaching communities, which is super, super important, guys. If you can find somebody who's done what you want to do, it's the biggest unlock. It's such a great asset, and I encourage everybody to look for something like that. And with that being said, I just quickly want to do the bullet point form. So I have a little bit of a chat prepared here. And the long and short of it is that when it comes to what is an LLC, it's important to recognize that it is a perpetual legal entity. Okay. So that means that this is a legal entity recognized not only in the US, but internationally. And because of this, we can give it certain benefits, certain privileges. Among those include a bank account. Among those include like a EIN or employment number. And so like with those things, you are considered and recognized as an American entity. And because of that, you get automatic access to first world or developed world solutions. And I've used that pretty excessively. Like I've leveraged that benefit quite a lot. And you can see that, for example, with my Instagram and Facebook accounts. Back in like maybe as far as 2 years ago, the Instagram shopping feature was available to everybody. But Instagram or Meta has rolled that back. And now it's only available to American businesses, and they'll slowly roll it out to other countries in due course. But because I have my US LLC, even though I'm operating out of Cape Town, I have access to this US infrastructure. In addition to that, one of the biggest things that my LLC has allowed me is a Stripe account. So Stripe is an international payment gateway, which is very much the norm in Europe, US, Canada, Australia, everywhere where there's flourishing online communities. And for some reason, we don't have that in South Africa quite just yet. The great thing about Stripe is it gives me additional leverage. So I can implement, I think it's called Assure. And I think the long and short of it is these are bracketed payment solutions. So instead of a client paying one lump sum for my service, I can now break it up in 4 installments or 8 installments. And even though the client gets to pay over that period, 4 months, 6 months, I get paid immediately, and I can continue. So that's one of the key things that my LLC allows me to do. Keep in mind that even though it is yours, it is a perpetual legal entity, and as such, there are laws that protect it. So I'm not going to go too much into the legal component of it, but be mindful of your LLC, guys. Don't abuse it. Use it as the benefit, as the mechanism that it's intended for, but you don't want to do anything that's going to land you in trouble later down the line. Next up, when and why do I need an LLC? I think this is going to vary from person to person, but for me, in my notes that I mentioned is you want an LLC when your ideal client or your customer avatar is living in the developed world. And also, so that means clients in the US. For those of you who don't know, US is currently the biggest economy in the world. And if anybody were to guess where South Africa is in terms of biggest economies, what would you wager? Willie, if you had to guess?
Yeah, top 20.
Not even
17.
close. No.
Okay.
South Africa, last time I
That
checked,
gave-
is 37th in the world in terms of size of the economy. And if we look at the most recent statistics, the median salary is about 5,400 Rand, which is just over 250 US dollars per month. So for me, the kind of work that I'm doing, the research seems to indicate that my ideal clients are not in South Africa, but I can find them by going online. And with my LLC, it's so much easier. Also, it's important to have this LLC in place if you are competing online. So if I, as Julius, with my South African company and my South African payment system, whether that's PayFast or SnapScan or whatever, if I'm in an equal market and I meet Willie as my opposition, as my opponent, and he can leverage PayPal, he can leverage Stripe and all these payment installments, and he can adjust it to accept whatever currency his clients are living in, he is going to be the obvious choice. Even if I'm cheaper, even if my service is better, just because of the way Willie is set up, he has an intrinsic advantage. And when you register an LLC, when you start your own business, it sort of like levels the playing field a little bit more, but there is a learning curve. You have to understand that as a South African, you are now servicing the developed world, and those clients have a specific way that they want to be sold to. The way that they talk about the services and their needs is going to be different than somebody who grew up in South Africa. So even though it does seem overwhelming, it's completely achievable. And again, you just need to find guidance and reach out to people who've done what you've done. All right. Some of the obvious, just quickly to go back. One of the key things that I want to mention about the LLC is the digital nomad visa. So a lot of us are aware of that, and it's becoming more of a thing internationally. Cape Town is sort of like, I know that unofficially it's available, but it's not quite there yet. But throughout the world, Japan now has a digital nomad visa. Spain has a digital nomad visa. Portugal has a digital nomad visa. And the US has one on a pilot project. So they'll be rolling theirs out soon. In the majority of all these visa applications, they require you to have an LLC that's at least 2 years old. So it doesn't necessarily have to be profitable for the entire 2 years, but they need to see that the business is mature. And when you apply, you have to meet the minimum requirements per person. So for Spain, for example, I think it's 3,500 euros per month. If you can prove that for one individual over 3 months, then they will grant you your visa. So another important thing in registering
Portugal
the
is
LLC
something like 300.
Sorry again?
Sorry to interrupt there, but just lowering the barrier for everybody. Like Portugal is something like 350, like under 500 euro, just to document like that. It's a very affordable digital nomad visa.
Yeah, that's excellent. But again, all these people require a legal entity. They're not going to do it in your personal capacity. So all the more reason, if you have that ambition, having a business in place is going to make your application that much stronger. All right. Benefits of registering an LLC. Obviously, it's for me, the biggest thing is it connects me to the largest economy in the world pretty much immediately. Okay. In addition to that, the way that my LLC is registered is my business is registered in Wyoming, which is a state that doesn't have any sales tax. And also interstate tax is different. In terms of the legal component, it's a non-piercing state, meaning that whatever's in the LLC stays within the LLC. If anything goes wrong, then they can only seize the assets that's owned by the business. So it protects me as an individual. In terms of tax, the way it currently works is I'm not a US citizen. Because I don't have a social security number, I don't pay tax in the US, but I still have to do a tax return on my business every year so that it's marked as healthy. And to do that is pretty simple when you're starting out, but keep in mind, as the business grows, as the revenue grows, there are certain laws you have to abide to because all of a sudden you are now an American entity, and that means employing or making use of services of American accountants and firms like that. All right. So next up, how do I register an LLC? When I got started, there was a service that did a turnkey solution for me. I paid $500. They registered my LLC for me in Wyoming. I had to send them through a few papers, sign some documents, copy of my passport, that sort of thing. And I had to pay an annual fee to renew, which was an additional $500. Lo and behold, last year when the time came to renew my service subscription with them, they'd gone belly up. So something happened, somebody complained, and their website had just shut down. And because of that, I found a route to register my LLC directly with the Secretary of State in Wyoming, which all of a sudden brings the setup costs down from 500 to, let's say, maybe 160, including the registration and all the startup fees. So it's a lot more accessible to do that directly with the state. And like I said, Wyoming, no sales tax, and it's a non-piercing state. And I can elaborate on that a little bit further in the Q&A. Yeah. For more clarity on this and more details, you can scan this QR code. I've written a little article called How to Succeed Online as a Creative in 2025. Here you'll see all the steps and the services that I used to register my LLC, how much I'm paying for my tax returns, which services I'm using, as well as all the software and web design solutions that I'm doing. Key things that you also need to have a look at is the coaching components. For me, I've been part of an online community called The Art of Selling Art for 4 years. It's a peer community of 400 career creatives. And since joining them, I've been able to grow my business and achieve the milestones that I've been struggling with. So there's a free version for that, but if you want to go paid version, it's also an option, but it's all in that article. And with that, I'm done with my spiel. Willie, Evan, is there anything that you want to add before we start taking questions?
I think so.
No, you guys are all really talented. It's really in your hands. You get out of life what you put in. If you want a life that's unordinary, you have to do unordinary things. So we're here to help inspire. But if anybody ever needs any help, like, don't only just reach out to us, but there are all of these resources that Julius is talking about right now. Like, use them. Put in the time and put in the effort. That's how people blossom and become what they're supposed to be. Yeah, cool.
I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I think in terms of preparing yourself for the road ahead, you have to start with why. Like, why do you want to achieve this? And from there, everything else starts falling in place. So for me, I wanted to do this because there is more opportunity online for somebody of my skill set than there would be geographically. And I've spent the last couple of years learning those techniques and learning from mentors on how to achieve that. And because of that, I feel like I live a better quality of life than I would have if I'd only been focusing on the local market. So that's sort of like my short spiel. Let's quickly get into Q&A. We did receive some questions in advance. I'm just going to read them out. The first one is from Lexi Knight. She said, I'm a video editor, and while my website works in drawing clients, I was wondering if signing up and becoming a member of an editors guild is worth it. Parentheses. What would the advantages be? Or is it better to spend that money on Google Ads rather? So I quickly want to give my thoughts on that, and if you guys want to add something, you can. But the big thing, Lexi, is community helps. If you can put yourself in a position where there are people that have achieved who you want to achieve, and they have a foundational blueprint that you can follow, that's going to be an asset. That's something that you can leverage, and it's going to increase in value as you proceed. So what I would do if I were you is I would check in with existing members and see what benefit they've gotten from joining. That could be training. It could be specialized offers, like maybe people they're getting work preference because of this affiliation. But if it's just sort of like an ego tag, like something that you can put on your board, say, oh, I'm part of this group, and it brings absolutely nothing in, then it's probably a waste of time. And then in terms of Google Ads, I like to follow the organic route first. So post, see what works, and then when you know what's doing well, you run paid ads on the ones that are doing well. So, Willie, got any feedback?
Yeah, Lexi, if you're here, I'd love to hear if you've ran ads before. If you have, that's a totally different type of question, because my guess is most people probably haven't, and Google definitely isn't the place I would start. As I've kind of preached throughout my conversation today, Meta, you'll find leads more ready to take action for substantially cheaper. So if you are going to run ads, only do so if you've done it before. Otherwise, this goes back to the guidance. Like, find a team that has ran ads or ran the organic marketing, so that you can find the right people and not just waste a bunch of money, because it's going to easily turn into that if you don't know what you're doing on a Meta ads platform, rather than just boosting, because boosting isn't running ads like the capacity we're talking about, like boosting a post. You might find yourself wasting a bunch of money with nothing in hand, no leads. So again, going back to like the guild, the important piece for me, I think. Oh, go ahead, Julius. What are you saying?
No, I just wanted to mention a great resource for me is Brendan Kane. He's got great books on how to use paid media and how to leverage different platforms. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, and with the guild here, it's more about finding value, like Julius was talking about. It's about making sure that you align with the type of team or community, and they provide the leadership that you really need to take action. Because like I just said a few minutes ago in my summary, like, it doesn't matter what you think about, it matters what you're doing. Like, information without action is still inaction.
Yeah, it's just
hopefully
overall.
that helps, Lexi.
All right, so next question from Aisha at IO Creative. Best way to get clients and grow your audience?
Sure, I can take this one. Yeah, it's kind of like tapping back into what we talked about before, right? You have time or you have money. That's it. So sometimes you have a little bit of both. Sometimes you only have one. That's the best way to kind of look at clients, or look at growing an audience and getting clients. If you have time, then you just want to post and you want to look for where are my ideal clients, my ideal avatar hanging out. Specifically, we're talking about online, right? Not necessarily like in person. Online, where are they hanging out? Are they engaging with a certain page on Instagram? Are they reading specific things online? Like, where are they at? What's their mindset? And you need to get in front of them, send them a DM, send them an email, or create content that speaks to those people. Like, what are their deep desires? What are the things they're struggling with? How can you create content? I saw somebody else here above here said that they like promote their work. That's an element of it, but we're all egotistical. We only care about ourselves, right? How is this going to help me is what we're constantly thinking when we're scrolling. So yeah, your work might be great. It might be the best thing ever, but to them, it's like, how does that help me? So your content should also speak to you understanding what their pain is, you understanding what they're going through, and providing your thing as the solution. So that's another great way to grow an audience when we're talking about just time.
Don't
right?
just highlight just the audience too, but how to get clients.
Yeah, how to get clients, right? The audience will eventually, in theory, turn into clients, but it's not always it's not always that black and white. I'll give an example of, I know musicians that have 1 million followers and a blue check, and they can't even pay their rent. I also have clients who have less than 3,000 followers and they're making $20,000 a month. So audience doesn't always equate to clients and like business success. So just don't feel like that's really what it is, that they are two separate things. That's a good distinction. Thanks for that. But I would also say the other thing is money, right? If you got stuff that's working and you want to pay, pay some ads, go on Meta, maybe toy around with Google, YouTube. That's another way to get clients. To me, those are the main two ways. Of course, we've got the referral and the word of mouth, and you guys seem to be good at doing that. That'll come naturally, but those are the main two things.
I'm going to give my my version of the answer on that. But before we do, we are pretty much at 5 o'clock. So could we go over by maybe 5 or 10 minutes? And then we can just field some questions from the audience as well. So to get to this question, people buy from people who they trust, who they know, and who they like. So in terms of your online strategy, those are elements that you have to implement. Nobody logs onto social media and says to themselves, oh, I wonder what ads Willie is running today. Meaning that you should not be selling or doing the hard sell on social media. You want to be building trust. You want to be cultivating an audience. And that is the most effective strategy. You want to be authentic, and that takes time. That takes a lot of trial and error. But again, you need to have a frame of reference. So read the books, find the coaches, and figure it out. But if you are just going to make social media
Is he frozen, or is it us? Let us know. I would like just making sure.
I think it's him because I'm still here.
Okay. Copy that. Okay.
He was in a groove too.
Yeah, he was. All right. Sorry about that, guys. No sweat. I have the questions in front of me. I won't pick up from where he was at, but I essentially think he was kind of like summarizing, like, just find the right people for building what you want. I think it's about taking a step back, getting clarity on, what it is that you are going to employ, be it a strategy for social media or outreach, most likely both. And I think the big delineation that we were trying to make here is the separation of both audiences and how you grow that versus how you acquire clients. They can come together, but usually they are a little bit separate in your approach.
Yeah, I think it's also what he was talking about is like building trust. You can't build trust with somebody you don't know yet. So don't just go out there and be like, anybody with, 2 eyes, I'm going to sell my services to. That's not going to work. You're going to burn out. People aren't going to align with you. So before you can build trust with them, you need to lead with that. So know who it is you're trying to target. Is it people? Is it weddings? Cool. Know who's your target audience. Is it the bride? Is it the bridal party? Figure out who it is you're trying to sell to and double down on that. Stop when you try to appeal to everyone, you appeal to no one. So know who it is first, and that's where the trust building aspect comes into play, which is what Julius, I think, was trying to say.
Yeah.
Okay. He's back now?
Yeah, maybe. I don't see him coming back yet, but we'll let him in if he comes back.
I think we'll allow it.
Yeah, I think we'll allow it. I've got a 3-part question, and if anybody in the room has a quick question, we can go around and open the floor a little bit if you would like. So this is sent by somebody that isn't here, but we'll answer it anyhow, I suppose. How can marketers collaborate with content creators to build an authentic brand, trust, and engagement? Truth be told, I don't think you should. If you want my opinion, collaborating with content creators and marketers, it depends. Well, I suppose, let me rephrase that. I suppose it depends on what you're doing, right? If you're a marketer and you're trying to find a client that is a content creator, maybe you want to create content that speaks to that, or maybe you want to employ what I was speaking about earlier about finding clients. Maybe you want to directly reach out to as many content creators as you can. The key piece, though, is to be yourself. Don't just be robotic and type this essentially the same message out every time. Go like some of their stuff. Go engage, leave a comment, watch their stories, like their things, because it's going to leave an impression. And then you send the message that says, hey, whatever their name is, I really enjoyed this on your profile. I see you've been creating like this. How long have you been doing it like that? Just to genuinely engage in a conversation and build that trust. Engagement is a separate thing, like we were just talking about. It depends on if you're after just building an audience full of numbers, or if you're interested in finding clients, because the engagement, I don't find really truly matters all that much. As he said, there are plenty of people that have huge numbers but don't have the revenue, and plenty of people who don't, who do. The social presence, in our opinion, should just be a digital resume. A place where if y'all visited our page, you'd be able to see that we speak the language, that we know what we're talking about, that we're doing the things. That's more important. We subscribe to the School of Hard Knocks more than anything, and people will respect that. They'll see you are you. People buy from people. Okay, we'll hit that question here in just a second. Hopefully that answers part A of that. And then there's a second part here. Someone passionate about photography. How can I leverage the creator economy to establish a strong personal brand beyond showcasing my work? That's probably a you question.
Sounds like a better one for Julius, to be honest. But
oh, he just joined.
About photography, can I leverage the creator economy? Yeah, that's a good question. I would say establish that yourself first. You know, really focus on your own personal brand, and you can find the synergy will present itself on how you can kind of align with other people. If I understand the question correctly, but again, I think Julius might be a better person to answer specifically photography.
We can let him answer that, and I'll answer the last one real quick just to kind of cap these off. Then, what are the biggest trends shaping the creator economy in 2025, and how can marketers leverage them for growth? I won't speak to the trends, but I'll talk about marketers leveraging them for growth. I don't find that trends do really well in marketing. Authenticity does. Really speaking to specificity does. Understanding what your ideal client really cares about in your marketing and keeping it really simple. A rule of thumb is everything in your ad should be readable and digestible for a fifth grader, a person in the fifth grade. If not, then it needs to be more simplified. We want to keep the text simple. We want to keep the image simple, or the video simple, and the funnel simple all the way through. But if you are yourself, you are creating pathways that encourage trust, like posting things like I just said, or web pages that have testimonials, or examples of what you're doing that are crystal clear. Those kinds of things will help you market to the right people, because you know who your ideal client is, which trends don't change who people are. They're still the same people usually. And you can lean into that and build the trust naturally. So I don't usually subscribe to trends when it comes down to marketing, outside of going against it. I don't run a lot of video ads. I run a lot of image-based text ads because they're very different.
Other than memes. Memes are always great.
Memes are always great. Yeah, memes are always fun. Yeah, everybody likes
videos.
Yeah, everybody. Memes always work. I don't know why. You know what? I do know they're funny.
They're relatable.
Guys, so
okay,
sorry about
cool.
that.
Welcome back, brother.
Thank you. Let me just quickly, I need to close the door. Hold on a sec.
Hit me with that. Hit me with the question. Yeah, if you want.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, fantastic. Hi, I'm Ilanka. I have a question about during a new client strategy. For me, I have found it to help if I have certain portfolios created for certain types of photography. So I would identify an audience and fire off a portfolio to those people. My biggest problem is that as a photographer, obviously a portfolio needs to look really good, but in order to send a good portfolio, it needs to be this massive file. So it needs to be sent via something like WeTransfer, etc. Getting a client to download that file is very tricky. Post-COVID, I found myself, after being a child photographer, having to reinvent myself a bit, and I started photographing events. So I had this event coordinators or event management companies, and I probably sent about 50 portfolios to 50 different people, and not one of them downloaded that portfolio. So yes, I can send them a compressed version. However, a compressed version, obviously, then your quality of your images are compromised. So how does one get around to, how does one get somebody to download a really good photography portfolio rather than having to send them a substandard portfolio and then also still hoping that they're actually going to open up the document? Are you with me? Talking about an email strategy, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely hear you. I wonder if, and I mean, I'm sure Evan will have a good answer for this too, but I wonder if it's even really necessary. Obviously, it's not working. And even if they did open it, how much are they really going to comb through? What these, most likely, the events and the specific types of things that you're working on here care about them, right? That's kind of what we were highlighting earlier, is like, what is in it for them? With the images, yeah, they can see that you're talented, you know what you're doing, but so can a bunch of other photographers. They can just send those things over. What they want to know is that you're going to make it special and that you're going to listen to the directions that they've got and capture it in the unique way that they envision in their head. And they want you to most likely take what's in their head and actually make it into a reality. And so that probably just takes listening to them rather than showing them a handful of photos inside of a catalog. I would go so far as to say that nobody probably really needs that at the end of the day. Now, do I need maybe some when I'm getting close to my decision? Possibly. I can understand and hear that. So that's where I may house those on a private page or a listed page, possibly on my website, if you do have a website. Or I'd host them in a Google Drive, where they might be viewable for everyone. But I would not advise putting a bunch of them, because when you overwhelm a client, they tend not to make a decision. That it's paralysis analysis, more or less. Analysis paralysis. Sorry. Yeah. So more or less, I would probably try to advise getting into a conversation with them. If you're talking about how you have your email correspondence, how can you help it become a little bit more of a personal conversation? Could they book 15 minutes on your calendar? Could you request a phone number along with an email?
Yeah, that's the problem, you know, trying to get a conversation with someone. They pretty much treat you in the same way as they do via email. They just don't converse. I mean, I have thought, is it worth printing, you know, going back like real old-fashioned style, printing the portfolio and actually dropping it off at that person's office? Because you know, you'll have a bunch of people who will not return your call. They won't respond to emails. And I am talking specifically in Cape Town because that's where I live. These people pretty much suck at coming back to anyone. You can probably ask anybody. Yeah,
I believe that. Yeah, it sends, again, in all due respect, it sounds like we're more worried about like your portfolio versus what they really care about. Like, what do they genuinely care about, and how can you create an experience that nobody else is doing? If I'm going to print a portfolio, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to actually just go to the office myself and say, hey, I heard you're hosting an event doing X, Y, and Z. What are you guys kind of envisioning for your visual?
Yeah.
So Ilonka, I do have some input on this. Apologies, my camera just stopped working. So thank you, Eskom.
Right.
Ilonka, what you want to consider doing is create a high resolution YouTube video, okay, where you've got your beautiful images on display in 30 seconds or less, but it can't just be a slideshow. There has to be some element about who is Ilonka, what does she do? For example, she's a storyteller. She helps people grow their businesses. She helps people find love online by taking great portfolio pictures. She helps people get better jobs because now all of a sudden they look more professional on LinkedIn. So you have to be problem aware in this video. And if you do it the right way, you only have to do it once. So people click the link, they're immediately because audiences are getting lazier and lazier and lazier every year. They want to be spoon-fed your work, and a YouTube video is going to do that for you. But if you send me a link and I have to download stuff and there's no context, you've already lost me because somebody else has sent a YouTube video and has wowed me and goodbye sale. So that's the one component. The second component is I want you to be, sorry, like I read a book called The Win Without Pitching Manifesto, and it's been a huge unlock for me because it avoids the pitching process entirely, and it focuses on building relationships with your clients so that when they are problem aware, meaning they know they need a photographer, you are top of mind. You know, they don't have to set out a pitch and say, hey, we have this event and, you know, this is our budget, because as soon as it's got there, it's a race to the bottom and everybody's competing on price and you're not going to get the rate that you deserve. So the strategy is to build a relationship with those ideal clients in advance so that when they know they need people, you are there for them. And then the second component is having a conversation. You have to diagnose before you prescribe. So figure out what their needs are. What do they need for the photos? What is the end use of it? And from there, you can compile a proposal that is sort of like going to suit their needs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, completely. I understand the customer need benefit completely. I guess my question is, how does one get to converse or have that very first conversation with a brand new client, given all the tools that we have, the platforms that we have, and if none of those platforms are getting you new clients, then what? That's what I mean.
Yeah. So it's all about creating awareness. Sorry.
Yeah. No, sure. I mean, I do have a host of clients that use me year after year after year, where I've built these beautiful relationships, but maybe we're talking about one conference in the year, you know? So I want to increase that.
Evan, did you have any inputs?
What about all of the vineyards that are on the outskirts here? What about all of the vineyards that have tons of events all the time? Hey, I want to be able to be first of mind. Like, do you guys have any events coming up? Call them all the time. What about all these businesses that are sitting downtown that probably have terrible Google photos, right? If you're doing things like just general photos, like walking in the door and saying, hey, what's going on? There's tons of opportunity out there outside of just like the immediate people that you can reach. That's the point of, I think, like the discussion here today, is to be able to use the internet as a valuable tool. I often tell clients when I work with them about building audiences inside of Meta when they're running ads. It's a difficult task. What are all the businesses that do X, Y, and Z, right? Like even the party places in town probably know all the different types of events, calling the catering halls, calling the events buildings. There's tons, right? And also thinking outside the box. Because if you don't know all of those places, that's where a quick Google search could open that up. And then trying to search it in different ways, in different pockets. And then how far would you be willing to travel? You're speaking about doing something in person, so you do have to be somewhat geographical and accessible, which I definitely understand is maybe something that's worth doing or not, depending upon how far you go. But understanding that can help you know how far to reach out to and how wide to make your Google search. Use both Maps and Google itself, and I bet that could fill your lead roster quite fast.
All right, Willie. So we are running into 17 minutes past 5.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I take 2 more questions and then we wrap up? Is there anybody else who's got a quick question? Ashley, are you aware of any questions? Oh, Timothy, yes.
Oh, sorry, yes. Hey guys. So this is great. There's lots of ideas. I've got a notebook here. I'm writing stuff down. Brilliant. And I could listen and chat for ages. So I am a stills photographer. I've been one for 20 years. I'm very fortunate to have built a portfolio that ranges from motorcycle racing to weddings to live music events to everything. I started in the UK when I lived there for a bit, and I've been back home now for 15 years. So my ADHD brain works really well under pressure, and any event, any drama that happens on the day, whatever might happen, I can stay calm. My clients like me. And also when I meet clients, when I can just get my face in front of them, it's great, because then I'm selling myself. And that's where I get my referral bookings from. from other clients because they liked how I was in the day, they liked my approach and everything like that. However, I mentioned ADHD because all this other work, the researching, the posting, the finding keywords for this and a hashtag that, and it's so much, it's too much for me. My wife works from home, we've got 2 young kids, so I don't get to spend 3 or 4 hours on my work every day consistently. I struggle there.
Mm-hmm.
What advice could you give me to sort of get myself out of this? I feel like I'm in a slump now. I'm like, I don't have the mindset or the energy to go and pursue these things. You make very good points, but I'm stuck.
I'm going to start the answer and Willie is going to finish it.
Okay.
But Timothy, it sounds like you are a generalist because you said you've done all these different things over the last 20 years and it's working against you. You need to work towards establishing yourself as a specialist. And also I've commented on this in the WhatsApp group in the past, like internationally, photography is changing because it's now being seen as a service. So cameras are getting more affordable. The sensors in your phone are a lot better. AI is doing its own thing. So all that essentially means that photography is no longer considered a specialist field. It's a service. So because it's a service delivery business model, you are going to end up competing on price. And the antidote to that is positioning yourself as a one-of-one. And I've been working towards that, for example, by hosting my own podcast, by having conversations with people in the industry about the art and the value that I add. Willie, if you have something else, you're welcome to add.
Okay, I've actually got some. I'm gonna step in for this one. Yeah, so going back to your you mentioned ADHD and kind of focus on, sounds like the tasks that overwhelm you. You're fine talking to people. You're fine connecting with people face to face. That seems to be your superpower. The simplest advice I have is proper goal setting. So there's 2 types. You've got your outcome goals, which is the big, sexy things that we all want to achieve, right? Like $1 million or 5 clients a month, or the thing that we want to happen. Those are primarily the ones that we see our clients like make, and they're great at making, but not so great at like achieving because it's big, right? You can't just wake up and be like, yeah, I made $5,000 a day, right? You can't just happen. You need the second types of goals, which is called process goals, which are the not sexy goals that are the tasks, the mundane tasks that you kind of listed out. Let's say, call it $5,000. You want clients, does that mean 5 clients? So, okay, 5 clients. How do you need to get 5 clients? I need to reach out to 10 locations. See how I'm chunking it down into actionable steps. And somewhere in there is going to be a goal of like, okay, you want to, in order to get that, you need to like get out on social media. You need to use the hashtags and all that stuff and make engaging content. Make that part of the process. You don't post 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. One post is an educational post about what I do. On Wednesday, it's like showcasing my my abilities and my work. And then, on Friday, I just talk to the camera and like riff about my week, about like what happened or something, just giving you an idea. And you just recycle that every single week, right? Now it's like something that you can check off, because I feel like I kind of go in, I think both of us do kind of go in the ADHD realm. Like we're all creatives, we're here for a reason. So we empathize, but if it's on there and you can, it's something you can check off. In my mind, it's easier to do. So process, outcome and process goals.
Thank you so much. That makes a lot of sense to me. Especially the video to, like me speaking to camera once a week. I've produced a small TV show years ago. I'm fine in front of camera in that. So that's, so probably just more, but thanks guys. I do appreciate it.
You're welcome, Timothy.
Sure.
Do we have a last
we're
question?
2 peas in a pod. I tell you, my brother ran over me on a motorcycle in an accident in Brazil one time, and he ran over me, like almost like killed me. And then I get up and off the bike and I'm like, hey man, you okay? Like all calm. So I get where you're coming from, man, but like chunking down is gonna make a big difference.
Look, I know that my personality, I'm fortunate that I get along with people, but it's got me into some great places with clients and that sort of thing. So I think the video aspect of what you mentioned is what I need to pursue a lot. And focusing. I need to decide, right, it's going to be probably weddings. Then that's going to be my focus, and that's going to be what I chase.
Yeah. Just keep the specialist route in mind as well. So a specialist could be career-based, but what happens if you get a new piece of technology in and you can leverage that? You're the only guy in Cape Town with this piece of equipment or this solution. Then you can position yourself on price until such time that you have opposition, and then you have to sort of like find something new. But for me, like I work with a lot of real estate agents, and they have the exact same problem. They are all generalists, and they're constantly competing on price. They're not converting. And my solution to them is you need to specialize. Specialize on a specific kind of client, a specific territory, a specific kind of property, and work your way from there.
Yeah, for me it was, I don't want to take up anybody else's time now, but about 9 years ago, I realized that what I was getting booked for on work was my candid images, my photojournalist images. No matter what event I did, whether it was a wedding, live music, corporate function, whatever, everyone loved my sort of street photographer's approach and idea. So I pursued that and made that work really well. But I've allowed it to sort of, like you say, journalists. It's spread over too many things now, and it needs to be contained and focused in a narrower field. But yes, thank you so much, guys. I really enjoyed this. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Timothy. We have time for one last question. Ashley, have you got something in mind?
Nothing from my side, no.
All right, so
I'm going to drop our website here in the chat too, just in case anybody would like to visit our website for the company here.
Yeah, please do. All right, guys. Lexi is giving us an applause. Thank you, Lexi. All right, I think we can wrap it up if there are no questions. We're going to give you 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2. All right, thank you very much, everybody. We will have a recording available shortly. Willie, Evan, thank you so much for setting the time aside, especially with the pre-production and all the meetings we had in advance. I really appreciate your time and effort and input.
Happy to be here.
I'm eternally grateful. Ashley, to you and Willem, thank you so much for supporting this endeavor. I know online and these live events are new to you, and it's new to me too, but I feel like we are on the right track, and there's
Definitely, yeah.
Oh, the event getting in person too, don't forget. I would love to present a few days that if everybody, while we're here, we've been here a while, but we are getting ready to leave in mid-April. So I'd love to get together, propose a few times for everybody for the events that you all have. Anywhere, I've heard a weekend day could work. So I was thinking maybe the 5th or possibly the 29th. And then any day, like the week, the beginning of April would probably work too. We can make those work.
I think that the big obstacle is geographic. So typically we would want to have these events in town so that it's nice and central for everybody. So we have to figure out when and where, and from there we can just attend.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I will liaise with you guys. I can drop it in the chat and we can collectively all decide on a date, and yeah, I can let you know.
Sounds good. Great. Cool. Good meeting everybody.
Yeah, have a wonderful long weekend. Thank you for joining us, and then we'll see each other again very soon.
See y'all soon, guys.
Cool. Thanks so much, guys. This is really, really cool.
Thank you so much.
All right. Cheers, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.